tous et bienvenue dans Projetez-Vous, votre rendez-vous hebdomadaire pour explorer l'univers passionnant de la gestion de projet. Je suis Mirvet Mtimet, j'ai plus de 10 ans d'expérience en tant que chef de projet et PMO, je suis certifiée Project Management professionnel et je suis bénévole au Project Management Institute, référence mondiale en gestion de projet. Transmettre mes connaissances et vous accompagner dans la gestion de vos projets, qu'ils soient professionnels ou personnels, c'est mon défi. Car oui, bien maîtriser les rouages de la gestion de projet, c'est s'ouvrir les portes du succès dans tous les aspects de votre vie. Vous êtes curieux et avez envie d'en apprendre plus, vous souhaitez donner du peps à votre carrière ou transformer vos équipes et vos entreprises, je prends soin à vous apporter les bonnes connaissances à chaque épisode. Imaginez maîtriser l'art de transformer une simple idée en un projet réussi, de naviguer avec aisance entre les défis de coordination de budget et de délai. C'est ce monde que je vous propose de découvrir à travers Projetez-Vous. Et parce que le monde évolue constamment, j'aborderai les tendances et les actualités. Qu'il s'agisse de nouvelles technologies, nouvelles méthodologies, d'outils innovants ou de changements dans les normes et pratiques du secteur, Projetez-Vous sera votre source d'information. Et ce n'est pas tout, j'invite des professionnels aguerris qui partageront avec nous leurs expériences et leurs méthodes sur des thèmes variés et captivants. Alors, prêt à transformer vos projets en réussites éclatantes, rejoignez-moi dans cette aventure. Ensemble, faisons de la gestion de projet votre atout pour l'excellence. Dans l'épisode d'aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir d'avoir comme invitée Louise Gardner. C'est ma deuxième invitée féminine du podcast. Comme chaque mois, nous franchissons les frontières linguistiques pour rencontrer un acteur majeur de la scène internationale de la gestion de projet. Louise Gardner est la fondatrice et directrice générale de Pledge Company. Avec plus de 20 ans d'expérience dans la gestion de projet et de PMO, Louise est une figure emblématique dans notre domaine, reconnue pour sa passion à aider les organisations à développer leurs capacités en gestion de projet et de portefeuille. J'ai assisté à une conférence dont Louise a été la facilitatrice au dernier PMO UNCon organisé par la PMO Global Alliance. Elle avait animé cette conférence avec Stuart Easton, qui est mon invité de la semaine précédente. L'interview d'aujourd'hui sera en anglais, une opportunité pour nous d'élargir nos horizons et de s'immerger dans les perspectives internationales. C'est une chance unique d'entendre les réflexions et les conseils d'une experte de renom et je suis convaincue que ces insights seront d'une grande valeur, peu importe où vous en êtes dans votre parcours professionnel. Pour nos auditeurs non anglophones, ne vous inquiétez pas, la version sous-titrée de cette interview sera disponible sur la vidéo YouTube. Ainsi, vous pourrez suivre toutes les nuances de cette conversation enrichissante. Alors, sans plus tarder, plongeons-nous dans cet échange captivant avec Louise Gardner. Préparez-vous à être inspiré et à connaître les dernières tendances de la gestion de projet. Welcome to Projetez-Vous, the podcast where we dive into the world of project management. Today, I am very excited to have Louise Gardner with us. I participated in one of the workshops of the PMO UNCon organized by the PMO Global Alliance, and Louise was there as a facilitator, and she talked about portfolio management. So I was more than happy to invite her on this show. Louise is the founder and managing director of Pledge Consulting with over 20 years of experience in managing projects and PMOs. Louise, it's a pleasure to have you. Could you start by telling us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Merve. Thank you so much for having me on. It was really great to meet you in Paris. And I was very excited when you suggested coming on the podcast. So yeah, thanks again. So a little bit about me. I've spent the last almost 25 years working in PMOs and project controls teams mostly, although I've done some project delivery as well. I've worked across many industry types, including construction, technology, across the public and the private sector. And I guess the main thing to know about me is that I'm really passionate about helping organizations to deliver projects in a way that creates organizational value. So that means on time, it means on budget, and crucially, it means ensuring that the benefits identified in the business case are realized at the end. So the business gets what the business needs from that project investment.
Very nice introduction, Liz. I am very in line with you, and I see many companies that cannot finish projects in time and budget. So it feels like an utopia when you talked about it. So I think this is what you do with Pledge Consulting. How did you found it, and what motivated you?
Yeah. So great question. I founded the business because for many years, probably the first 10, 12 years of my career, maybe a little bit more, I was client side. So I worked for big organizations running projects and PMOs. And during that time, I came across a lot of consultants, and a significant number of those consultants were not subject matter experts. They weren't specialized enough in the field. So as a company or as companies, we would often go to large consulting firms, and the people that would come and help us would not be specialists. I mean, they were very clever people, and I'm sure they were specialized in certain areas, but they weren't PMO, project controls, project management specialists, which was what I was expecting as a customer. I wanted somebody to help us that knew more than I did. And oftentimes that's not what we got. So to be clear though, I mean, we did see some good consultants. So there was some expertise around, but nowhere near the amount of expertise that I would have expected. So to answer your question, I founded the business because I felt there was room in the market for a company, smaller company, although we are no longer small, but a smaller company that is just about projects and PMOs, and that's it. So that's in a nutshell why I was motivated to found the business.
Thank you. It's very interesting because I was also a consultant in one big company, and yes, even if the company is working to train us or to project management, we are no expert, and we try with the bits that we have to understand. And as a consultant, I had also the reverse. Like I very well specified in project management, but when I try to help my clients, they have many beliefs that just slow down the effect and the effectiveness of management. So thank you for this as a client to have realized that and then try to help other customers that were in your situation. So in your experience, what are the most significant challenge your clients face before coming to you?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them. And as you just touched on, sometimes, and it's what we find a lot as a business as well, the customers don't necessarily know. I was very fortunate. I was trained in PMO and project controls and started off my career in an organization that was very mature in this space. But that's not the norm. And many, if not most large organizations don't have a high level of expertise. So they need people like us to come and support them. So our customers, broadly speaking, look for support, right across the board. We do quite a lot of project and PMO assurance work. So things like PMO maturity assessments, project health checks. We do an awful lot of post-implementation reviews. So people are relying on us really to evaluate how they're going or how they've gone, and make recommendations really for how they can build on that capability moving forward. We also set up and sometimes run PMOs for organizations. So a PMO setup engagement is a very typical engagement for us. We'll go in and we'll make recommendations around the size and the shape of the PMO. But sometimes customers will also say to us, well, that's great, but we don't have the people to do this. So can you run it for us too? Which of course we can. And sometimes we do that for a long time. And sometimes we do that just while they hire permanent people and bring the right people on board. So we do a fair bit of that. And we also help in specific functional areas. So I'll give you an example. Something like project planning will often need specific focus. So we'll come in and, we might get an inquiry that says, our projects are running late, our projects are always running over time. Can you help? And so we'll go in and we'll do a little bit of discovery work. And what we'll find is the project wasn't adequately planned. And quite often when we find that, it's not just that one project wasn't adequately planned. It's that the processes and systems and frameworks around properly planning a project are not in place. So we'll review the process, and again, we'll make recommendations, and we'll just focus on that functional area. And I'm using planning as an example, of course, but we can do that across any functional area of a PMO, as well as planning kind of popular topics with our customers around risk, governance. And there's a lot of talk at the moment around agile practices. And so, customers want to be more agile in the way that they work. But sometimes a full-scale agile transformation is not right for a business, particularly if they're a hierarchical or bureaucratic organization. So
Yeah.
sometimes they'll go too far with an agile transformation, and we'll help them kind of move back along the spectrum so they're more agile, but still have really strong structures around governance and reporting and that kind of thing. So also, probably the other thing to call out in terms of our services is we're more and more being asked to help with the strategic end of projects. So right up front and right at the end. So we're doing a lot of work at the moment and having a lot of conversations around helping people with portfolio and project prioritization. So what are the right projects that the business do? Helping people define benefits, and then right at the other end of the spectrum, trying to help people monitor and measure those benefits at the end of the project lifecycle and beyond. So we really are kind of a full service PMO lifecycle provider, and can jump in and support doing whatever we need to do wherever in the life cycle that we need to do it, really. Long answer to your question.
No, no, it was very interesting, and I have many things to talk about because I myself really regret that here in France, the customers, the client, the companies, I work with larger companies and with also smaller companies. They don't know the usefulness of PMOs. They don't. They will not ask pledge company, for example, because they don't know they have a problem, as you say, that it's usually in the insight from project manager or PMOs that comes the question. So I was a PMO a very long time, and I had a different mission in each company because nobody knew about the definition of PMO. So in the beginning of this year, I provided the guide, but for the PMOs beginner to do what you say, the PMO health check to know the maturity of the company, about their PMO, about their project management procedure, that what is working, what isn't working, and it's very, very interesting what you're saying when we shift into when the client is convinced that. It needs to be applied to his company, and not only the people inside the company, but the managing, the directors that have the money to do it. So what first steps do you usually recommend for your clients, or even before, to acknowledge that they need some help in project management office?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we start work with a customer, our first job really is to make sure that we all understand the problem. So we understand the problem and that they understand the problem. And when I say they, I don't just mean the customer, because the customer is usually the person bringing us in. And that could be a PMO manager, a PMO director. But as you say, not everybody in an organization understands this stuff. So when we start an engagement, we bring all the key stakeholders to the table. The executive team, if we can, the PMO manager, the person who is our customer or sponsor, and any of the colleagues on the leadership team that are going to be touched by the work that we're doing. And we'll often meet with them and talk about the problem. And then we'll do usually a short and sharp piece of discovery, where we do some interviews, we look at documents and artifacts, and then we'll go back to that group of people and say, well, you told us this was the problem. We agree that this is the problem based on our discovery, or actually, you thought this was the problem, but we think you might have a slightly different problem. But the key for that whole piece of work is to make sure that before we start doing anything or changing anything, everybody has a common understanding of what it is that needs to be done and why. And at the early stages, what are some of the things we might do to try and attack the problem? But it's interesting you talk about the lack of awareness of PMOs and PMO functionality. Please don't think you're on your own in France. You're really not. Here in Australia, we have some of the same issues. A lot of companies, even big companies, sometimes either don't understand what PMO is, or don't recognize it in that word. I was talking to a colleague who's based in Los Angeles last week, and she was saying exactly the same thing. all she does is PMO, but on the west coast of the US there, and she's very busy. They don't call it PMO. It sits under the broader project management umbrella. So I think as consultants and as practitioners, we're very passionate about PMO and about something called PMO. But actually, what's more important is what we actually do under that banner. It doesn't matter what it's called. And so however we need to educate these stakeholders, whatever we need to call it, or whatever the conversation is, if they don't understand what a project management office is or a program management office, then as long as they understand what sits underneath that, it doesn't really matter what we call it.
Yes, thank you for this insight. And that's what also I discovered at the PMO UNCon organized by PMO Global Alliance. I really thought that France was not mature enough in PMO term, because each time I go to interviews for PMO position, there are even people that don't know about project management, they don't know about Project Management Institute, they don't even know about the processes. So I really need to explain to them the terms without being very specific. So it's good that we are going in a way. So in my podcast, Projetez-Vous, many episodes are talking about the role of project management office. I even invited the French project management office, but he works in an American company, so it's a little weird. But I really try, yes, to tell people about project management office. So yes, but I think the thing, it is also about not understanding most of the part of project management, and especially for me with smaller companies, but also with large company. Why do we need to have a risk management? Why do we need the planning to be very precise, even if it will be changed next week? That you talked about planning earlier. So this and this. So for you, when you meet clients, what are the most challenges they face? Is like in project, what is the less known for them area that they are the less experienced, and that is very useful to succeed in their projects and portfolios?
Oh, look, it depends on the company. There isn't one answer to that question. As I say, I think at the moment there's a lot of confusion in particularly government agencies and big companies about where agile fits in. It's not confusing if you are in a technology company that only delivers software companies, very straightforward. But if you are in a kind of company that delivers hardware and software and change management and transformation, sometimes what agile looks like for those businesses can get a bit blurry and confusing. So that's certainly one of the big lessons that we see is if you are going down the road of an agile transformation, make sure your leadership team understand what it is, make sure they know what they will get and what they won't get, and make sure everybody is ready for it. Or at least, I'm a big believer that if you wait until you're completely ready, you never do anything. But in this case, get to 80% at least, and at least have those key stakeholders lined up. So that's a big one at the moment. The other big overarching lesson that we talk about a lot is that around sponsorship, project and program sponsorship. And it comes back to exactly what you're talking about people not understanding and not educating themselves around what PMO and project management is. We get a lot of accidental project sponsors. So you often hear about accidental project managers, people who are not trained but somehow end up managing a project. And there's a lot of tools for those people and training available, and we can deal with that as organizations. But it's much, much harder to deal with the accidental sponsor, the person who becomes responsible or accountable for the delivery of a project, but doesn't know what questions to ask, is not fully invested in the process. You haven't got their attention. That's much, much harder. So we're doing a lot of work at the moment around sponsor education and trying to get this leadership team level, who are project sponsors, for those that don't know, trying to get them educated around what it means to be a project sponsor. And one of the reasons I call out sponsorship specifically is because nothing can succeed without good project sponsorship. whether it's projects or PMOs or programs or anything at all, really. For success, sponsorship is a non-negotiable. So that's really, I'm on a mission, and we're on a bit of a mission as a business at the moment to make sure that if you are sponsoring a project, you understand what that point of accountability actually means.
Oh, that's very nice. Your 2 points are very, very on, I think, trendy this moment, in the bad way, of course, but trendy because everybody wants to go agile but doesn't know what are the consequences. And sometimes people are just refusing or rejecting because they don't understand why we put them in agile just to follow the trend, as we say. And I think, yes, transformation and leading the transformation well. And that's one of my episodes about how to lead people to accept the change and to have a good change. So that's very interesting. And I think many companies, when they decide to do a transformation, they forget about how to make people follow them and just follow the processes and be good in the new situation. So that's very good. And then you talked about sponsorship, and I have seen many projects with very good sponsorship. Like the sponsor was like the backup of the project manager, knew everything and stuff. And other projects where the sponsor was more like, okay, don't spend too much budget. Come to this. It was like limiting and framing, even if he didn't understand everything. So it's true that sponsorship is very, very important. So my episode of last week was talking about sponsorship, and I also have articles on it. But in France, the sponsorship is not known at all. It's just, we know it's like our head of department that is usually the sponsor of some projects or the one that really brought the projects in. But sometimes, as you said, it's the accidental one. Like we think it fits into his department. So as he's the head of the department, we just give him the sponsorship and the responsibility of the project. So that's a very nice insight that you gave me that I didn't know about or feel about. I know that people are not, but it's true. A good sponsor means the project has more chances of success. So thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you for this insight. Do you have like any use case you can talk about how it happened with your client and how you resolve their issues? J'espère que vous trouvez l'épisode d'aujourd'hui aussi enrichissant et inspirant que je l'ai trouvé à préparer pour vous. Vous savez, chaque épisode est une aventure, un voyage dans les subtilités de la gestion de projet, et je suis tellement heureuse de partager cette aventure avec vous. Mais savez-vous qu'il sera bientôt possible de rester connecté et informé en dehors de ces épisodes? Et pour cela, j'ai une nouvelle excitante à partager avec vous. Ma newsletter exclusive est sur le point de voir le jour. Oui, vous avez bien entendu, une newsletter dédiée à la gestion de projet pour pouvoir l'appliquer en entreprise. Pourquoi s'abonner à cette newsletter? Eh bien, je pense que ce sera intéressant pour toute personne voulant développer et optimiser ses projets pour assurer une meilleure maîtrise du budget et une meilleure satisfaction client. Dans cette newsletter, vous pourrez trouver des conseils pratiques, des astuces concrètes et des mises à jour sur les dernières tendances en gestion de projet. Ce sera un lieu où je partage mon expertise, mais aussi des ressources, des études de cas et des tips pour bien amorcer une bonne mise en place de méthodologie dans vos projets si vous êtes encore loin d'appliquer la gestion de projet dans vos projets. Je suis actuellement en train de travailler d'arrache-pied sur cette newsletter pour m'assurer qu'elle soit une source incontournable d'informations et d'inspiration pour vous. Chaque édition sera soigneusement élaborée pour enrichir votre compréhension de la gestion de projet, mais aussi l'appliquer dans vos entreprises. Que vous soyez curieux pour la gestion de projet, un chef de projet ou manager, ou que vous soyez un directeur qui cherche une solution pour mieux gérer vos projets, je pense que cette newsletter vous fournira les réponses que vous cherchez. Mais ce n'est pas tout. En vous abonnant, vous aurez l'opportunité de faire partie d'une communauté partageant les mêmes idées. Vous aurez des news et des petits bonus en exclusivité. C'est une chance de pouvoir échanger sur la gestion de projet. Si vous avez aimé cet épisode et que vous voulez aller plus loin dans la gestion de projet avec des exemples concrets et pratiques, je vous invite à vous abonner à la newsletter. Toutes les informations seront en description de cet épisode.
Sure, give you a quick case study. We're working at the moment, and have been for a few years actually, with a global financial services organization. So they're not headquartered in Australia, but they do have a large presence in Australia. And they have a large and complex portfolio of mostly IT type projects. Now, a decision was taken about 18 months ago that the delivery team wanted to be more agile. So they went and all got trained and came back really passionate and pumped up about being quicker to market, more responsive, more iterative, all of the good things that agile brings you. They were very excited. Unfortunately, though, they didn't take everybody on the journey with them. And the PMO and the leadership team, the sponsors, didn't know this was really going on until they started to notice that things were behind schedule and things were going over budget, and the outcome of the project wasn't always what was asked for. So when things started to slip, the CEO got involved, and his comment to me was, why is this new and better way of delivering projects leading to poorer project outcomes? We've got less visibility, we've got missed deadlines. What is going on here? So we did some investigations. We did our discovery piece, as I described earlier. And again, it became obvious quite quickly what had been going on. So the delivery teams, for lots of really good reasons, had embraced working in a scaled agile way. But they'd only partially implemented it. Now, I'm a big fan of scaled agile methods, but to work, they need to be embraced by the whole organization, not just bits of the organization. And so these guys had kind of snuck it in while nobody was paying attention, but just bits. So not everybody had agreed that this was the right delivery mechanism across the organization. Project managers and delivery teams having a good time, executives and change management people and the people making the other components of the project beyond IT not having such a good time. So we are cutting a very long story short. We subsequently developed for them a project management framework that embraced some of those things that they liked about agile, agile tools, agile ways of working. But we didn't and couldn't say, okay, this organization is now going to work in a scaled agile way, because it wasn't appropriate for all parts of the business, and they didn't want it more than anything else. So we took some of the really good stuff from the agile toolkit and incorporated that into a more traditional governance framework. So we really got quite adaptive around governance, tried to break down the structure, the very hierarchical and bureaucratic nature of the governance, and replace it with something a bit lighter touch, something that sat more within an agile landscape. And there was a lot of stakeholder management involved in that. But ultimately, it was the CEO's decision that he wanted certain things. He wanted stage gate reviews. He wanted status reports. He wanted steering committees. He wanted annual planning. So some of the things that fundamentally don't sit well within a scaled agile environment. So once that more traditional framework was in place, we found that, and with a light touch stage gate approach, we found that the other project stakeholders were much happier. We're probably 6 months now post implementation of that framework. And so far, it seems that both the delivery team and the leadership teams are happier with the level of transparency. And now that the project, the potential to track projects' outcomes and benefits, because for a while there, they really lost sight of how projects were going. Things were happening, but that visibility kind of disappeared. So we've reached a happy halfway point on the agile spectrum. But we still have that robust governance framework that the leadership team said that was a non-negotiable for them. So that's kind of a bit of a quick and dirty case study, but hopefully it describes to you the kind of ways we'll get in and we'll work with customers and try and find a satisfactory outcome when there's a complex problem.
Yeah, very nice. I just have two things that is like transparency, like you say, they snook out the thing. So everybody was not aware about the scaled agile framework that was being put into place, and also they didn't know all the consequences, like the
Yeah,
absence of report and status. So that's good, and sometimes just aside from someone outside of the company can point out what is missing and help them create some hybrid environment, I think. So that's
what
very
what what had happened is because it's a big organization, the delivery teams had a reporting line up here and the PMO had a reporting line up here. So the delivery teams were able to go and get training signed off and a new instance of Jira and all of those things to set themselves up without ever having to communicate on the other side that this was going on. And look, that's not I was going to say it's not typical, but it's also not unusual. Organizational structures can often be complex beasts to navigate, and that's what happened here. There was they wanted to do it a particular way. They just went and did it, and then it was our job to kind of bring them back.
yeah. The shift was like, oh, so people were not receiving the reports anymore and were not seeing what's happening. Yeah. So I think, yeah, there is this kind of miscommunication and this need of knowing how we do things and what has been done. Yeah. I think it's a very interesting use case that the listener will be happy to know about, and the companies like. I think when there is a change, we need to have a change management and to have all the stakeholders implied in the company and not just take some and leave the others watching it from the side of the road and not understanding what's happening.
Mm.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Thank you for this insight. I see that you have also another focus is portfolio management, so project and portfolio management, and you will have very soon a master class. Could you tell us more about it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, it's a I'm very passionate about our community as PMO and project management professionals. I think we should all be learning from each other. I'm, as a business and me personally, we love going into organizations and sharing our knowledge. But I think there's a lot of power in people on the ground sharing knowledge between themselves. So for the last 2 years, we've actually been in Australia. We've set up some events, so 1 day and 2 day events that are purely focused on the project management community. And they have been a combination of speakers, industry experts, and points of collaboration. So roundtable talks, panel discussions, uh, sessions like we had in Paris at the Unconvention, where people just get together and problem solve. So very much in that spirit, we've set up a masterclass program. We had our first one actually in October, which was on benefits management. And every month now we're going to do a dedicated topic in a masterclass format. And what the masterclass format means is that we'll prepare some slides and some basic kind of insights on theory and good practice. But in these 2 hour sessions, we get a group of industry professionals together and talk about their challenges and how they overcome them. So people are learning from their peers and not just from consultants or educators. I say we will provide some theory and some good practice, and we'll talk about our experience. But the point of it is really for people to share what they are doing. So in the portfolio management masterclass, we're going to be going over concepts like portfolio and project prioritization, portfolio reporting, portfolio risk management, portfolio planning. But they are just headings on a page. What we will really cover in the session are the things that people want to talk about. So we do them in a hybrid way, and it'd be be great to have some international attendees on the next one. So if any of your listeners would like to join us, details are on the website and also on our LinkedIn page. But yeah, we're going to do one of these every month now, just to try and build that community. We do it in hybrid, so we can have people online, but we also get probably 15 or 16 people into our office in Ultimo in Sydney. And it's a really nice blend. It's interesting to say, after 3.5 years post-COVID, we finally got a really good way of doing hybrid workshops. We cracked it after 3 years. So we can give our online participants a really good experience now as well. So super excited about that. And as I say, there's one every month. February is Portfolio Management Masterclass. And in March, we're going to be doing a masterclass on how to uplift a PMO. So as I say, all of those details are on our website. Might not be a super time zone friendly time for Europe, but we get some interest. We can also always shift our time zones. Always happy to think about doing that.
I am sure that for our listener, it will be a great value. And I think it's very interesting to be able to exchange with many people in the companies that are facing the same problems and constraints, and to exchange about it, and to maybe be able to go back to the company with some solutions and some roadmap. And for me, portfolio and project management is very dear to my heart, because as a PMO, it's one of our main duty. I had also a steward assistant that was with you, a facilitator at the PMO UNCon, who talked about the prioritization and portfolio and project management last month on the podcast. So I think things are moving, and there are more and more people talking about it, and making the professionals, the client, that to gather in an hybrid workshop that works. That's a very nice idea, and I'm sure many people from France from all around the world should gather and come to your masterclass. So.
I must just speak about Stuart as well. That there are a few people in the world actually who know more about portfolio prioritization than Stuart. So it's great to hear that you've had him on your show. And he and I have also we work together in Australia. We support the implementation of transparent choice over there. And yeah, he's a very knowledgeable guy. So I'd encourage your listeners to have a look at their website as well if they're looking to learn about portfolio prioritization, because there's lots of great resources there.
Yes. So I put in the episode, if they want to go see it, all the links for it. And today I will put also all the links to see on your website, and also to register for the masterclass. I think it is very important, but people need to have the shift, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's understand better to make our project successful. We have many free information on the web, but then if it's not enough, we need to go to master classes, to ask companies to help, and this is still it's still in the roadmap on many companies or many project management professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
So now about about the profession, about the company. Do you have success in your masterclass? Have you noticed any change in the project management profession over the years? A good change or a bad change? I don't know.
Yeah. Look, I think, all changes is good, I think, in a way, because we are evolving, and even if things aren't good straight away, they are leading us to better outcomes. I think a couple of things spring to mind, really. I think, everybody's tired of talking about COVID now, me included, but we can't ignore the fact that it's forced us all to change our ways of working. The way we relate to each other, the way we manage teams. And I don't think that evolution has finished yet. So in 2020, 2021, we all started to work remotely, and despite lots of worries, as a small business, I didn't know if we would survive COVID. So we all adapted and flourished. Actually, we had some very good years across that period. And so we all realized we can do this. It's a success. And then over the last, so, early 2022 to now, organizations are pushing people back to the office. I don't know how you're finding it in France, but certainly in Australia, and from what I'm reading in the international press, big employers are starting to say, oh, it's a minimum of 3 days. And I was reading something in Forbes magazine, actually, it was last week, it was a CEO survey, and they were saying that CEOs are forecasting that by the end of 2024, people will be back in the office full time, and it will be just like COVID never happened. Now, I don't think that will happen, but that's what I say. This evolution of ways of working hasn't finished. Some companies are going to stay with a degree of remote working forever. Other companies are going to go back full time. And as the people in the middle here, how will that impact us? I don't know is the answer. So I think it will be interesting. I think when we get to maybe next year, by the end of 2025, I think we'll have a firm idea about what the next 10 years will look like, because it will be settled, hopefully, barring any other major pandemics that come through between now and then. The ways of working question is still one I don't really know the answer to. And I've got mixed feelings about it, because I think we can be very productive at home, but I also think that's not true for everybody. And in my own team, we have our best days when we are together. It depends on what we're working on as well. We can be, if I've got my head down and I'm working on some stuff, I'm way more productive at home than I am in the office. But if I need conversation and ideas and brainstorming, then there's nothing better than standing with the team around the whiteboard. And so, yeah, I think that's a big change. We've still got questions around ways of working. The other big change is, again, relating to Agile, but it's not just about IT or software projects. It's about, and it does relate a little bit to the ways of working conversation, it's about making sure that our ways of managing projects are fit for purpose. So organizations of all kinds will no longer just follow a rigid framework and say that's the way we do projects. There's a real desire to be more fit for purpose. I don't want to overuse the word agile, because I don't mean it in the capital A agile sense. I mean adaptable, lean, efficient. And so there's a huge push from traditionally big and clumsy organizations to be more efficient. And so I think that's a good thing as well. And again, I don't think there's one way, or if we do settle on one way, we're not quite there yet. I talk a lot about fit for purpose solutions, and that tends to look different for every company that we work with. I think we're definitely going to become less wedded to specific methodologies and just become more pragmatic, taking from each framework or each toolkit just what we need and applying it in our own organizational context. The final thing that I've got to mention, AI. It remains to be seen what will happen with AI, but I think it's a fairly safe bet that it's going to make much of what we do quicker and easier. It already does. We use a few AI tools just by way of almost admin and analytical assistance. It's changed the game for a couple of our people. It just makes the job quicker and easier. But hopefully what I'd like to see in the future is it doesn't just make things quick and easy, it makes them better, more accurate, more predictive, helps us get better data and better information. And I think hopefully once we get there, AI solutions will become the norm as part of PPM tools. There's three there for you.
Thank you for this very complete response. I was afraid that you won't talk about AI, like, oh my God. Imagine, but you talked about it last, and I think you were complete, and I also have many episodes that I talk about it with companies in AI, or with even about trends and what's happening in AI and project management. PMI is also very very active about it. It has a training on AI and even launched ChatGPT simulated exams very recently.
Yeah, that was today. I think that came out just today.
Yes, today at the time.
Probably yesterday for you.
Yes, very nice. So this, I think we will talk about it a long time.
Just on AI, Mirvet, as well. I think, speaking personally here, I don't know what impact it will have. I don't have a full picture about how organizations are using it now. I have a good idea of how it might be useful to people in the future, but I'm really interested to know. Um, we've got a couple of customers are using some AI solutions for predictive analysis, but they haven't told me that, you know, it's blown them away. It's still very much exploratory. So I'm really keen, and again, love to hear from your listeners. What is happening now? Who's using AI solutions today, and for what? Because it's a real gap in my knowledge, and we're trying to plan a couple of face-to-face events for later in this year, and everybody wants to talk about AI. But what are they going to talk about? What's happening now? Not just what's happening in the future, what's happening today.
Yes, so we will. I will tell you if some listeners are very interested. As I see, for me, many tools like Excel or other tools are bringing it into their tools. There are also some of my guests. There was Louise Gardner for Greyfly, and also French company Ofolio, Cyril Verbosch and William Gisot that were on my podcast and that have innovative solutions based on AI, and I think they are making the work. So today, I think, as you said, it's exploratory, knowing how. We don't know which tool to use because there are many options in the out. So let's, but not enough feedback to know which one is
that's right. I've seen some great risk management tools. I'm very excited to have a play with Microsoft Copilot as more and more features become available in there. So it's very exciting times, but I want to get started. And beyond ChatGPT and some plugins, and I'm not sure what practical applications there are for us in this space, but today.
Yeah, okay, so let's see, and we
see
can
what people say.
Keep it changing. Another thing is about what you say, the hybrid and the CEOs wanting people back in the office. I think I don't know if all people will agree to go back. Yes, it's true that being social and stuff is very nice, but yeah, I don't know if everyone will agree because it has given many a good life balance by some days or maybe even full work. Full working from home makes people be able to see their families or to do activities or to sleep more because commuting was very hard, I think.
Yeah.
For
No,
myself,
I agree.
Yeah, so we'll see, and I hope that we are not going back, just finding a way to to have both. Like I thought that hybrid in 2023, a lot of companies here were in hybrid, but yes, they are all asking their people to come back to the office. Like,
and people don't want to go. And I don't know what the job market is like in other parts of the world, but last year in Australia, there was more jobs than there were people. So if people wanted to work remote, people were going to work remote. Employers were in no position to say no. That's changing now, and unemployment is rising. So if employers say you're going back to the office, jobs aren't as freely available, and people are more compelled to actually do it. They can no longer just say no thanks. So it'll be really interesting to see that how all of that unfolds. Personally speaking, COVID was great for me. I know I shouldn't say that. A lot of people suffered, but I used to be the kind of person that was at my desk in the office by 8 o'clock every single day. And during COVID, I started taking my dog for a walk, taking my daughter to school. And even when I'm in the office now, I still do those things first. So it gave me a really good wake-up call to actually, you can work hard, but you can still have some work-life balance.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, so that's very nice. And the last point, we took a long time on this point, but I think it's very interesting. It was about adapting and not using a rigid framework And that's what I apply in my daily life. Like when I work with companies as a PMO, I see some projects are more for agile practice. So I try to put most of the rituals, but I also do reporting, like monthly reporting and stuff. So we need to find a way to be adaptive to each company, each project. And that needs also a level of knowledge on projects management methodologies, to know the lean, to know Kanban, to know agile, to know waterfall, and to be able to just pick from each one of it to make it like I forgot the word, but just scale to the agile to the company, like very specific to each company and type of project. I think it will be useful because sometimes just making one framework compulsory can make it less efficient, less optimized, and maybe some projects will fail because of this framework. But the company took it because most of the projects of the company are compliant for this framework. So it is true, it is needed, and I think with AI and with expertise, maybe it will leave place for this kind of modeling, of designing or architectures of projects led by, for example, PMOs. I think it's a very interesting point of view that you have. So it's also in report because you are more specialized in PMOs of the future of PMO. So this is one way to do it. But how do you see the PMO evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, look, everything we've just talked about, really. More adaptive, more technology focused, more, I think, leaving the ways of working conversation out of it. I think organizations are going to be more flexible in every way. I think that's what success looks like in the future. And the companies that don't jump on board with that will be left behind. They'll be left behind in terms of technology adoption, and they'll be left behind with people who don't want to work for them. So I think that's the future. I think it's adaptive ways of working and flexibility.
Thank you for this answer. What advice would you give to young practitioners in project management and to prepare themselves to the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. Hey, look, I couldn't be more passionate about being an advocate for project management and PMO as a career. I would say keep learning, learn every day, treat every day, every job, every project, every company as a learning opportunity. I still learn every day. I've been doing it for more than 25 years. I'm still learning. Find mentors, read a lot of books, consume a lot of content, listen to podcasts. There's a lot of good YouTube project management and PMO content creators out there, some of whom I met in Paris as well. So just lifelong learning, I think, again, it talks to this whole adaptive thing that I'm talking about. You've got to keep changing, keep growing, keep learning. And if you are willing to do that, project management is a phenomenal career path for you. It's been very good to me. And I couldn't be more passionate about it as a career path. So keep learning.
I totally agree with you on both sides. Like keep learning, reading, just keep watching YouTube, podcast, whatever the support you like, or reading newspaper, reading books and stuff. So I think there are many there are many information out there. So keep learning. And yes, I am also passionate about project management. That's the whole why I'm doing this podcast, and it's interesting to have guests like you, Louise, that are very generous and that really are passionate about project management and issues revolving about project management. So on this topic, can you share some common misconception about project management, PMO, and how to address them?
Yeah, in a similar vein, I think some people will think, and I've been reading a little bit about this lately. Some people might think that project management isn't a pathway into a senior management career, or it's very difficult to get to the C-suite from a project manager. And I disagree with that. You know, if corporate life is the life for you, spending some time as a project manager, I think would give you a huge advantage in terms of being able to work your way up through the organization. You are exposed to so much as a project manager, you know, finance, marketing, strategy, communications, every aspect of a business you get to see up close and personal. So, you know, some people like me fall into project management as a career, and we don't want to do anything else. To reach the top of the career pyramid, I had to start my own company because I only want to work in this space. But if you are a project manager that has ambitions to get into higher management, it certainly does you no harm to spend a few years as a project manager, then maybe to move into a PMO where you get exposed to strategy and to all of those kind of portfolio management functions. That is a great stepping stone, as far as I'm concerned, up into higher management.
Yeah, thank you. I also feel the same, and I always thought it, but I couldn't put the words on it, so you gave it. What I can add is that we learn as project managers some soft skills, like how to manage resources, teams that are gonna help us for the C-level. And recently I read an article, I think it was on the Harvard Business Review from Antonio Nieto.
I think I read the same article. Yeah.
Yeah, who was
Yeah.
and for me it was like yes, what you're saying now. So I was like, okay, this was not my own feeling, even if it's not something, maybe it's a misconception that even executive have, they won't promote the project manager easily or something like this. But I think project management gives you all the tools to be able to access to the C-suite.
I think it is true that, you know, project managers might not be proactively offered these opportunities. So it's up to us to say this when we go for these higher management positions. You know, it's up to us to say there is no one better qualified to do this job, because as a project manager, here are the things that I've been exposed to. So agree with you 100%. It was a great
And I
article as well.
also think that even the director position, they need to have the ground level in project management to be able to succeedly lead people. I think there are many of the project management tools and methodology and soft skills that we learn that some managing director don't have, and it would be good to have them just trained in project management to be able to go further.
Yeah, it comes back to the conversation we had before, actually, about sponsorship. If you think about projects as being organizational investments and the role of the sponsor to make sure that that investment has a good return on investment, if you have a sponsor or a senior leader that has got no visibility or experience of that cycle, how can it succeed? So it only makes more for the case of, you know, let's put people with experience into those senior leadership roles.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good answer. And I think both sides need to to learn, like the C-level and the project manager, to meet at the middle and to succeed together. Finally, Louise, um, uh, where can our listener find more about you and your work and your insights?
LinkedIn is a big place where you can find me, talk to me, connect with me. We have a company page, which is Pledge Consulting, where we post details of we have blog posts, we have details on our events. If we do webinars and all of that kind of stuff, it's always posted there. We also post those kinds of things on our website, which is www.pledgeconsulting.com.au. You can also find us on Instagram at pledge_consulting.au. But I reckon the best place for a chat or to see what we're up to or what we think about something is usually either my LinkedIn, Louise Gardner, or our company LinkedIn page.
Oh, very good. I will put all the links in the episode with the masterclass links. Could you share one final thought or piece of wisdom with our listeners, something they can carry with them in their project management journeys?
Sure. And it's just wrapping up, I think, some of the things that I've already touched on. I guess my key message to part with is embrace change and adaptability as your greatest assets in project management. The landscape is continuously evolving. We're influenced by technological advancements, changing market patterns, shifting cultures. And the most successful project managers are those who not only anticipate and adapt to those changes, but also harness and thrive on them and use them as opportunities for growth and innovation. Remember, tools and methodologies are important, but the ability to navigate through uncertainty and adapt to new situations is what makes a good project manager into a great project manager. Be a leader, ask the difficult questions, have difficult conversations. That's it.
Thank you, Louise, for sharing your invaluable insight for today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a great time. We've had a great conversation, and yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. So, dear listener, today's conversation with Louise Gardner has been a deep dive into project management and PMO. Thank you for listening and keep projecting your best self into your work and beyond. Let's meet for another episode next week.
Et voilà, c'est la fin de cet épisode de Projetez-Vous, abordant la gestion de projet sans complexe. La gestion de projet, c'est bien plus qu'une série de tâches et de délais. C'est un voyage passionnant vers la réalisation de vos idées les plus audacieuses. Et j'espère que ce podcast vous a offert des perles de sagesse, des conseils pratiques et cette petite étincelle d'inspiration. Un grand merci de m'avoir accompagné aujourd'hui. Ensemble, nous faisons de la gestion de projet une aventure riche en apprentissage et en succès. Alors, si vous avez apprécié notre rendez-vous, n'hésitez pas à vous abonner, à laisser un commentaire ou à donner votre avis. Votre soutien, c'est comme un joli diagramme de Gantt. Ça aide à tout aligner parfaitement. Pour des échanges plus directs, retrouvez-moi sur Instagram. Je suis connue sous le nom Mirvet_MGMT, MGMT comme management. Venez y partager vos anecdotes, vos questions ou même vos mèmes préférés sur la gestion de projet. Je vous donne rendez-vous dans le prochain épisode de Projetez-Vous. D'ici là, gardez le cap sur vos projets et n'oubliez pas, un bon projet c'est un projet partagé. À très bientôt.